I talked about the PlayStation and Xbox recently, and a lot of you had a lot to say about that, which is what I want, so I decided to make another video based on another console that a lot of people forgot about but at the time was one of the biggest consoles alongside the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, and that was the Nintendo Wii, a very unique console in both controls and design, that took the world by storm and was everywhere. But after the release of the Nintendo Switch, it seems to have drifted into obscurity. I haven't seen anybody talk about Wii in a long time, but why? How could such a popular video game system that was the pride of Nintendo become forgotten in less than a decade after its prime, especially when most of the time, when you went over to somebody's house, they more often than not had one of these? Well, let's talk about the Wii, Nintendo's forgotten classic. Now I'm mainly going to talk about two things. What makes the Wii so unique and great, and why it ultimately faded from the public eye. Now obviously what makes the Wii different from its competition are the controls, and the overall console design. It's not like the Xbox and PlayStation, it's a bit smaller and more easy to take around. Instead of being set down and flat just like every other console at the time, the proper way to set it up is by placing it on a platform sideways. The controls are very different from the other consoles in terms of how you play. Instead of flat controllers like PlayStation or Xbox, it's a stick and nunchuck. If you're playing more story-based games like Mario or Zelda or Epic Mickey, whereas you need joysticks and buttons to move around and do stuff, you shake the wand in order to perform a certain action on your game. Buttons and joysticks are obviously important in playing more story-oriented games, but for most Wii games, all you need is the wand and you're good to go. It's honestly groundbreaking and innovative, especially for the time it came out. Besides a few dance consoles, there was no other game consoles like it that required actual physical movement to control your characters, and even Xbox and PlayStation would try to replicate some of its signature features that the Wii introduced. As for the lobby of the Wii, it's honestly very soothing, just like the PlayStation 4 lobby. When you click the A button on the wand, you're greeted to an anime-esque calming music, and it's presented in a very solid way. As for the things everyone remembers about Wii Lobby, the Mii's is incredibly unique and groundbreaking. The fun of designing your own characters, giving them unique features, especially the very obscure ones, hey, at least they're being creative, are incredibly interesting, and give the system a very unique feature, one that Xbox would try to replicate but not come anywhere near close to the same vibe and charm that Mii feature does. But I digress. As for the Wii exclusives, they're honestly some of my all-time favorite games. There's of course Wii Sports, which everyone who grew up with Wii remembers and plays constantly. Its incredibly superior sequel Wii Sports Resort, which is far more enjoyable than a lot of other game sequels, and even Wii Party and Wii Fit are pretty solid. It's all pretty solid around. Now we come to the part in the video where we go into why the Wii fell off so hard and drifted away from the zeitgeist of the gaming industry. And there are a few big factors. 1. The release of the Nintendo Switch. Back when the Switch was released, everyone went nuts for it. It sold so many systems, and was the talk of the town for a long time, to an extent even more so than PlayStation and Xbox. It was a console that no one had ever seen before, a console that acted as both a portable and a home system. It combined both the best parts of the Wii and the DS, and made for an amazing, extraordinary experience. And when a product like that becomes that big and popular, it starts to overshadow a lot of the other releases. It happened with PlayStation. PlayStation 2 comes out, overshadows PlayStation. PlayStation 3 comes out, overshadows PlayStation 2. PlayStation 4 comes out, blows PlayStation 3 out of the water, and finally PlayStation 5 comes out and puts PlayStation 4 to bed. Same thing with Xbox, especially with Xbox 360 and the Xbox, but it's a bit of a different story for the Wii. You see, the Nintendo Switch presented a system that was so unique and different and so unbelievably creative that it made the Wii look inferior by comparison, despite the fact that it was one of a kind. So it wasn't just that it was a newer system, but that it was so different and such a deviation from all the other consoles that the Wii got shunned and labeled as just another console. The second thing is, Wii wasn't always easy to play and enjoy. There are a lot of games that came out on the Wii that were so difficult and so frustrating to play because of how it was set up. When you have a video game system that only requires a few basic controllers, it's pretty reasonable to manage, left stick to move and right stick to use camera. But the Wii's controls were a pain in the butt to play more challenging games such as Epic Mickey and other games like that. When you have to shake the wand to do a certain thing over and over and point at a sensor in order to progress, it can be really frustrating, especially when the game is incredibly hard. And that probably deterred people from picking up a wand and nunchuck after the Switch came out. cause not only was it easier to manage, but it was also a lot more enjoyable and far less anger-inducing. And the third thing is the Wii name being tainted. Let me explain. Obviously there was the failure of the Wii U, which was a terrible follow-up to the Wii, but then there was also the Wii Mini, which was an absolute embarrassing failure for Nintendo and a system that absolutely bombed with fans. And because of all that disappointment and frustration towards the Wii brand, it ultimately led to fans abandoning the brand completely and going towards the competition, and ever since the Wii has been a shadow of its former self. What was once a groundbreaker and one of the best-selling consoles of its time had now been reduced to has been an absolute mockery of Nintendo and its entire being, and nothing Nintendo did was able to save it from death. So overall guys, the Wii is an absolutely unique and incredible system. Sure, its last days were an absolute low point for the company, but when you look at the high points, you see a video game system that stands up there with PlayStation and Xbox as an absolute titan of gaming culture and were some of the best moments in video game history. Regardless of how the brand ended, it still provided a lot of fun, enjoyability and most of all wonder. It made some of the worst decisions ever made in the video game industry, but it also brought us things that paid off greatly and continue to be remarkable and iconic moments in all of video game history. And it deserves to be remembered as an innovative revolutionary trailblazer that opened the door for some of the most iconic amazing video game systems of all time, and not a boring system that nobody cares about anymore. And that is why the Wii is Nintendo's forgotten classic. Anyways guys, what do you think? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys later.